Imagine this. You wake up, but something is different. The sun shines through your window, casting a warm, familiar glow over your bed. The world outside hums with the usual noise, the rustle of the wind, the distant hum of cars, the faint chatter of people starting their day. But as you lay there, you realize something unsettling. You've been living in a cage. Not one made of iron bars, but one woven with invisible threads. These threads are as thin as air, and yet they have held you prisoner your entire life. You get up, but the weight of the invisible chains feels heavier now, as though they have grown stronger overnight. You move through the motions of your morning, the shower, the breakfast, the commute. You see people everywhere, doing the same. They are trapped, too. The chains that bind you also bind them. No one is truly free. The world you once thought was vast and full of possibility feels narrow, claustrophobic. And yet, no one seems to notice. They are all too busy, too distracted, too comfortable in their own prisons to even question the bars they live behind. Why is this so? How did you become a prisoner of a world that promises freedom? How did society construct a cage so intricate and invisible that no one even realizes they are locked inside? The contradiction is this: we live in a world that prides itself on freedom, individuality, and self-expression. And yet, we are more confined than ever. We are told that we are free to choose, to be whoever we want, to go wherever we wish. And yet, every day we follow the same routines, obey the same rules, and serve the same systems. What does it mean to be truly free when every choice we make has been conditioned, every desire shaped by the society we live in? You might say, but I have choices. I can do what I want, live where I want. And yet, when you examine it closely, you realize that these choices are not truly your own. They are the product of a system, of the education you were given, the media you consume, the people you surround yourself with, the expectations placed upon you. They are the consequences of being raised in a world that rewards compliance and conformity, not true individuality. What does freedom really mean if the very foundation of your decisions, desires, and actions is built upon a framework that was created long before you were born? Are you free if the cage is so cleverly disguised that you can't even see its bars? You might want to argue that society is simply a set of rules for the greater good, a necessary structure for harmony. And perhaps, in a way, it is. But at what cost? What have we sacrificed for this structure? What have we lost in the pursuit of collective stability? And what happens when the individuals who make up society, people like you, realize that the rules they've been living by were never truly their own? The truth is that society's grip on you is not just physical. It is psychological, emotional, and even existential. The chains that hold you are woven into the fabric of your mind, your heart, and your soul. They dictate how you think, how you feel, how you live, and, most unsettling of all, how you perceive yourself and your place in the world. So, here's the great question: what does it mean to break free? How do you begin to undo the layers of conditioning that have shaped you into the person you are today? Is it even possible to escape the prison of society, or are we doomed to live our lives trapped in a web of our own making? Before you answer, remember this: the answer is not as simple as it seems. It requires you to confront uncomfortable truths, question everything you thought you knew, and perhaps even dismantle the very foundations of the life you've built. And yet, the question remains: can you escape? Can you be truly free? The answer, if you dare to seek it, will reveal a truth that might change everything. But first, you must be willing to ask the right questions. And that begins with one simple realization: you are already trapped. The only question that matters now is whether you will stay there or find a way to break free. Now that you've realized the invisible chains that bind you, let's explore how these chains came to be and why they have such a powerful grip on us. The problem is not one of physical imprisonment. It is far more insidious, rooted deep within our psychology, philosophy, and the very structure of society itself. The chains you feel are the product of a world that has been shaped by millennia of conditioning, a world that demands conformity and submission, often disguised as progress and freedom. The paradox is clear: the more we have been promised freedom, the more we have been constrained. But how did this happen? To understand this, we must dive into the realms of psychology and philosophy, seeking the wisdom of those who have understood the nature of the human mind and the invisible forces that control it. Thinkers like Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche, Arthur Schopenhauer, Aldous Huxley, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Viktor Frankl have all grappled with the question of human freedom, and what it truly means to live authentically in a world full of societal constructs. Jung, for instance, believed that the self we present to the world is often not our true self. He spoke of the persona, the mask we wear to fit into society, to conform to its expectations and roles. This persona is not who we are at our core, it is an artificial creation, born from the pressures of a world that values image over substance. The persona is a response to societal demands. It is the social mask we put on to avoid rejection, to ensure survival within a group. And it is this mask, this persona, that keeps us trapped in a world of expectations, constantly performing for others while ignoring our true desires and potential. The more we feed into the persona, the further we distance ourselves from our authentic selves. Nietzsche, too, saw the dangers of societal constraints. In his concept of the Übermensch, the overman, he challenged us to transcend the mediocrity of societal norms and create our own values, our own truths. Nietzsche believed that modern society, with its emphasis on conformity and herd mentality, stifled individuality and creativity. He saw most people as slaves to societal morality, bound by rules that were not their own, and driven by the desire to fit in. He argued that only by embracing our true will, by becoming who we truly are, could we break free from the chains of societal oppression. But Nietzsche's vision of breaking free from societal constraints is not an easy one. To step away from the safety and comfort of conformity requires immense courage and a willingness to face the unknown. And this is where the roots of our psychological imprisonment lie. We are terrified of the unknown. We fear what it means to truly be ourselves, to live without the support of the structures that have been built around us. It is this fear of freedom, this fear of personal responsibility, that keeps us shackled. Arthur Schopenhauer, another philosopher who addressed the nature of human suffering, believed that the very essence of human existence is bound to frustration and pain. He argued that we are all driven by desires and wills that ultimately lead to suffering, and that we are trapped in a cycle of perpetual striving. Schopenhauer suggested that the only way to escape this cycle was through renunciation, detachment, and a form of asceticism, yet this path, too, is an uncomfortable one, requiring us to give up the very desires that define us. In contrast, Aldous Huxley's dystopian vision in Brave New World highlights the dangers of a society that offers false freedom in exchange for conformity. In Huxley's world, individuals are conditioned from birth to fit into predetermined roles, and their desires are carefully managed by a controlling state. Huxley's message is clear: in the pursuit of happiness and stability, society robs individuals of their freedom and autonomy. His novel is a stark reminder that the illusion of freedom can be far more dangerous than outright oppression, because it numbs the soul and traps us in a state of passive contentment. Jean-Paul Sartre, the existentialist philosopher, took a different approach, emphasizing the concept of radical freedom. For Sartre, we are condemned to be free. The existential reality of being human, he argued, is that we are always free to choose, to act, and to define our own existence. However, this freedom comes with an unbearable weight, the responsibility for every choice we make, and the anxiety that comes with it. Sartre believed that society tries to alleviate this burden by creating predefined roles and norms. In doing so, we are encouraged to abandon our freedom, to adopt the bad faith of living according to societal expectations, rather than embracing the anguish and responsibility that comes with true freedom. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Holocaust, presented a profoundly different view of freedom in his work Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl argued that, even in the most extreme conditions, we retain the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose our attitude toward our circumstances. This is a powerful concept, one that challenges the idea that we are merely products of society. Frankl's philosophy suggests that, no matter how oppressive the world may seem, we still possess the ability to break free from its chains by choosing how we respond to it. But this, too, requires a level of courage and insight that most people are unwilling to face. At the heart of these philosophical and psychological insights is a stark truth. We are conditioned, not just by society, but by our own minds. Our desires, our values, and our very sense of self are shaped by the forces of culture, history, and upbringing. And while we may think of ourselves as free agents, the truth is that we are often prisoners of our own conditioning. But this recognition is not an end, it is a beginning. It is the first step toward understanding how deeply ingrained societal forces shape our lives and our perceptions of freedom. And it raises a question that you must ask yourself: is this the life you want to live? Do you want to remain shackled by the invisible chains of society, or are you willing to confront the existential anxiety of true freedom? It is time to face this question, because, as Sartre and Frankl would tell us, the choice is yours. Now, you might be wondering, if the chains are invisible, how do they really affect us? After all, society doesn't seem overtly oppressive, and we are told constantly that we live in a free world. Yet, the consequences of this invisible imprisonment are everywhere. The more we attempt to live within the framework society has set for us, the more we find ourselves trapped in a series of self-imposed limitations. Limitations that affect everything from our personal happiness to our collective future. Let's look closely at how these invisible chains manifest in our daily lives, how they silently shape our behaviors, attitudes, and perceptions in ways we are rarely conscious of. First, there's the pervasive grip of social conditioning. From the moment we are born, we are immersed in a society that dictates how we should behave, what we should value, and even who we should be. The expectations begin in childhood, as we are taught what is acceptable and what is not, what is normal and what is strange. These lessons come from parents, schools, peers, and the media, forces that shape our desires and decisions without us even realizing it. For example, think about the deeply ingrained ideas about success. Society tells you that you must follow a predetermined path: graduate, get a job, marry, buy a house, have children, retire. And if you deviate from this path, you are often met with judgment, confusion, or even outright scorn. This isn't just societal pressure, it's neurological. Our brains are wired to seek social approval, to fit in with the groups we belong to. The need for acceptance is so strong that it often overrides our own desires, our own sense of what makes us truly happy. We end up living lives that are not truly ours, but the lives that society has prescribed for us. This constant need to conform has profound psychological consequences. Cognitive biases, such as social proof and confirmation bias, play a significant role in keeping us in line. Social proof is the tendency to believe something is true or right simply because others believe it. When we see people following the same societal script, getting the same jobs, marrying at the same age, buying the same things, we begin to believe that these are the only correct choices. We no longer critically evaluate our decisions. Instead, we follow the herd. But there's a deeper, more insidious force at work here. Neurologically, our brains reward conformity. When we fit into society's expectations, we receive positive reinforcement, whether it's praise, approval, or a sense of belonging. These rewards feel good, so we continue to follow the rules. However, this creates a vicious cycle. The more we conform, the more we are rewarded, but the more we are rewarded, the further we move away from our true selves. We lose the ability to discern whether our choices are truly ours or merely echoes of the society we live in. Now, let's add a layer of complexity: consumerism. In a world where everything is commodified, where desires are manufactured by marketing and advertising, our lives become an endless cycle of consumption. We are told that happiness lies in the things we own, in the experiences we buy, and in the status we can project. But the pursuit of these material rewards is hollow. The more we acquire, the more we feel we need. The more we consume, the more we feel empty. The real question is, if consumption is meant to bring us fulfillment, why do we always feel like something is missing? Why does the pursuit of wealth, success, and status leave us feeling unfulfilled? Here, Viktor Frankl's insights into human nature are especially relevant. Frankl argued that, in the face of suffering, the human spirit craves meaning, not superficial pleasure or material wealth. The deeper meaning that we seek, according to Frankl, comes from the ability to choose our response to life's challenges. Yet, society's emphasis on external rewards, on the superficial symbols of success, keeps us focused on the wrong things. We have become so obsessed with having that we forget about being. We become prisoners of a consumer culture that promises happiness, but never delivers. But the consequences of living within this system extend beyond personal dissatisfaction. On a societal level, the constant drive for more money, more possessions, more power, leads to systemic issues that are impossible to ignore. Environmental destruction, economic inequality, and the erosion of community are all products of a society obsessed with consumption and individual success. We are encouraged to accumulate wealth at the expense of the planet, to climb the social ladder at the expense of others, and to seek personal gain without considering the consequences for the greater good. This individualistic mindset is deeply ingrained in our collective psyche. It encourages us to see ourselves as isolated, as separate from the whole. We are conditioned to focus on me instead of we. But this mindset has a ripple effect that touches every aspect of our lives. It affects our relationships, our politics, and even our mental health. We find ourselves living in a world where people are increasingly disconnected from one another, where trust has eroded, and where loneliness is on the rise. The more we pursue individual success, the more we forget about the importance of collective well-being. On an individual level, the consequences are just as severe. As we follow the societal script, we develop what can be called existential dissatisfaction. This is the nagging sense that, despite having everything we were told would make us happy, career success, a comfortable home, social status, we are still unfulfilled. We have built lives that are meant to look good on the outside, but inside, something is missing. The pursuit of external success has come at the expense of our internal needs, our need for authenticity, connection, and meaning. This existential dissatisfaction is the result of living according to a script that was never our own. The more we try to fit in, to follow the rules, the more we experience the disconnect between our true desires and the life we've been taught to lead. And the more we experience this dissatisfaction, the more we double down on the system that created it, pursuing even more external rewards in the hopes that they will fill the void. But the void remains. It is in this paradox that the true consequences of living within the prison of society lie. The more we seek to conform, the more we stray from the path of true fulfillment. The more we consume, the more we empty ourselves. The more we strive for individual success, the more we fracture the collective. And yet, the prison remains invisible, and most of us continue to walk blindly within its walls. So, the question becomes, can we ever truly escape? And if so, what would it take to break free from the invisible forces that have shaped our lives, our desires, and our very sense of self? You felt it, haven't you? The suffocating grip of a world that demands your compliance, your conformity. It's like being a puppet, held by invisible strings, every move, every decision dictated by the world around you. The paradox is unbearable. You live in a world that promises freedom, yet you feel more confined than ever before. But here's the truth, this is not just your reality, it's a collective one. It is the condition of modern existence. But it doesn't have to be this way. The first step in breaking free is accepting that the chains are real, that you have been shaped by forces beyond your control. To deny this is to remain trapped in the very system that has defined your life. Once you acknowledge this, you are ready to start the rebellion. The rebellion isn't just a rejection of the world around you, it's a reclaiming of yourself. It is a process of reawakening, a shedding of the false personas, the masks, and the desires that have been imposed upon you. But how do you begin this process? How do you break free from the system that has shaped every aspect of your existence? The answer, as counterintuitive as it may seem, begins with one simple act: questioning everything. For years, you have accepted the narrative that society has built for you. You've been told what success looks like, what happiness is, and how your life should unfold. But who wrote this narrative? Who decided what was worth pursuing? The first act of rebellion is to stop accepting this script without question. You must begin to question everything you've been taught about who you are and what your life is supposed to be. Start by asking yourself, what do I really want? Not what society tells me I should want, but what I truly desire at the core of my being. This might not be easy. For years, your desires have been shaped by external forces. But now, it is time to look inward. This is the beginning of reclaiming your autonomy. At first, you may feel lost. You may find that the things you thought you wanted, money, success, status, no longer hold the same allure. You might even feel disoriented, as though the foundation of your life has been pulled out from under you. This is normal. It is a part of the process. For so long, you've lived according to someone else's blueprint for your life, and now you are charting your own course. This requires courage. It requires a willingness to face the discomfort of the unknown. One powerful example of this kind of rebellion can be found in the life of Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau, the 19th century American transcendentalist, retreated to a cabin in the woods near Walden Pond, not as an escape from society, but as an act of deliberate disobedience. In his solitude, he sought to strip away the distractions of the world and reconnect with his own thoughts, his own desires, and his own sense of what it meant to live a good life. Thoreau's rebellion was not against society itself, but against the conditioning that had led him to believe that a successful life was one of wealth and status. He sought to break free from the tyranny of external expectations and live life on his own terms. Another example of rebellion comes from the world of art. The Surrealist movement, led by figures like Salvador Dali and André Breton, was a rejection of the rational and the logical. In a world defined by order, reason, and conformity, Surrealists sought to embrace chaos, the unconscious mind, and the freedom of imagination. Their work challenged the very structure of society's expectations for what art should be, and in doing so, they liberated themselves and their audience from the chains of conventional thought. The rebellion, however, doesn't just happen on the grand stage of philosophical or artistic revolutions. It begins with the small, everyday decisions you make. It begins with the willingness to say no to what society expects of you. It's the refusal to go along with the crowd simply because that's what everyone else is doing. It's the courage to make choices that may seem irrational, rebellious, or even foolish to others, but that feel true to your own spirit. Take, for example, the decision to leave a well-paying job that no longer serves your soul's purpose. This may seem like an act of madness to some, but it is, in fact, a radical act of self-liberation. You are choosing to live authentically, to align your life with your true values, instead of living by someone else's standards. The same applies to relationships, lifestyle choices, and even where you choose to live. The rebellion is a process of tearing down the walls of the life you've been told to live, and rebuilding something that reflects your true self. But there's an even deeper aspect to this rebellion. It's the rebellion against the fear that keeps you trapped. Fear is the most effective tool society uses to maintain control. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of being alone, fear of being misunderstood. These fears are often the real chains, far stronger than any physical barrier. And the only way to break them is to face them head-on. In this sense, the rebellion is not just about rejecting societal expectations, it's about overcoming the internal fear that keeps you from living freely. Fear tells you that you cannot live outside the confines of societal norms, that you cannot survive without the structure and the safety net that society provides. But the truth is, it is the very safety net that has been keeping you from realizing your full potential. True freedom comes when you learn to live without it, when you face the uncertainty of life and realize that uncertainty itself is the key to unlocking your true power. This is where the rebellion becomes not just an individual act, but a collective one. When you begin to live authentically, you inspire others to do the same. Your rebellion against the chains of society becomes a beacon for those around you, encouraging them to question the system, to challenge the narrative, and to seek their own freedom. This is how true change begins, not from the top down, but from the individual up. It starts with you. It starts with the willingness to step into the unknown, to embrace discomfort, and to trust in your own ability to create a life that is truly yours. The rebellion is not an easy path. It is filled with doubt, fear, and uncertainty. But it is also the only path to true freedom. The question now is, will you take the first step? Will you dare to break free from the invisible chains that have bound you for so long? The choice is yours. There comes a moment in every life when the truth, stark and unyielding, breaks through the veil of illusion. It is a moment when everything you thought you knew about the world, and about yourself, shifts. This truth is not one of grand revelations or sudden epiphanies. It is more subtle, more profound, and ultimately, more liberating. The ultimate truth is this: the prison that has held you captive all this time was never real. It was a creation of your mind, a construct of belief, fear, and expectation. The chains that bound you were forged not by society, but by your own acceptance of it. The world you live in, with all its rules, its pressures, its expectations, is not a prison. It is a stage. And you are the actor. But the problem is that for too long, you've been acting according to someone else's script. For too long, you've been playing a role that society has written for you, following a storyline that was never yours to begin with. The truth is that you are not the character you've been told you are. You are not the person the world expects you to be. You are more than that. You are the creator, the writer, and the director of your own life. The prison that you thought you were trapped in is, in fact, nothing more than a set, waiting for you to tear down the walls and build something new. You see, the illusion of imprisonment is not a reflection of reality. It is a reflection of your own mind, the way you perceive the world and your place within it. When you begin to see this, something extraordinary happens. The world opens up to you. You realize that the boundaries you thought were immovable were nothing but lines in the sand, waiting to be crossed. This realization is both terrifying and liberating. It forces you to confront the truth that you have been complicit in your own confinement. But it also empowers you to break free. You are no longer bound by the rules and expectations of others. You are free to define your own path, to live your life on your own terms. The only prison that exists is the one you create for yourself, in your mind. But how do you reconcile this newfound freedom with the world around you? How do you live authentically in a society that continues to demand conformity? The answer lies in the paradox of freedom itself. True freedom is not the absence of constraints, but the ability to choose your response to them. It is the ability to live fully in the face of uncertainty, to embrace the unknown, and to create meaning in a world that often feels meaningless. The ultimate truth is that you are not a passive participant in the world, you are an active creator. The life you lead is the result of the choices you make, not the expectations others place upon you. This is where the rebellion ends and the transformation begins. You are no longer a prisoner, but a free being, empowered by the knowledge that you are the master of your own destiny. This is not a truth that comes easily. It requires a radical shift in perspective, a complete rethinking of everything you've been taught. It demands that you let go of the illusion of control, the idea that you can predict and manage every aspect of your life. But in doing so, you find something far more powerful, a deeper sense of peace, a freedom that comes from embracing the chaos of existence, and the ability to create your own meaning. And here lies the final realization, the one that changes everything. Freedom is not about escaping the world, but about fully engaging with it. It is not about rejecting society, but about finding your authentic place within it. The prison you thought you were trapped in is not an enemy to be fought. It is a canvas, a space waiting for you to paint your own story. To be free is not to live without constraints, but to live with purpose, to live with intention, to live in a way that reflects your deepest truth. The chains that once seemed so real are nothing but illusions. They are the product of a world that has taught you to fear your own power, to doubt your own potential. But now, you see beyond the illusion. You see that you are not bound by anything except the limits you impose upon yourself. And so, the story ends, but only because it has begun again. Your life, your true life, is waiting for you to step into it. The choice is yours. Will you continue to live by the script that others have written for you, or will you take up the pen and write your own? Will you remain in the prison of society's expectations, or will you break free and embrace the freedom of your authentic self? The answer is within you. The truth has always been there, waiting to be discovered. Now, it's time to step into the world as the person you were always meant to be. The prison is gone. You are free. And with that, you begin the journey toward a new life, a life of true freedom, bound only by the limits of your own imagination. The ultimate truth is simple: you were never trapped. You only had to believe it to see the bars. Now that you know they are gone, the world is yours.